Hey guys, Zomfox here, and today we're going to be doing the XFL version of the last video that came out in the 5 things it needs to do for the 2024 season and beyond. I just did a USFL video. If you want to watch that, make sure to check it out after this one if you haven't already. But today we're going to be looking at the XFL. The USFL and XFL both are trying to survive as long as possible, and there are some things that the league desperately needs to do. So this is going to have some similar things to the USFL one, but some things that are also different. So without further ado, let's get started with the first problem, scheduling games better. Look, I talked about it in the USFL one a little bit. The XFL was horrid at scheduling games during the year. Look, the first one is the changes. Now, yes, it was really cool to see some games flex into better networks and stuff, but at the end of the day, changing 9 games either to different networks or time is pretty insane. You had 6 games that changed networks, 5 that changed time, and 3 of them actually changed both at once. And these were usually within like a couple days announcement, like barely a week. There were a couple that you had like a 2-week notice, which is cool, but some of them were like a week notice. And you had 3 games with a 10 p.m. or later start time, which is absolutely catastrophic for viewership. Not the best. I I get, trying to, show you have faith because they were trying to add more games after, they originally were going to have like just like 6 games on ABC and stuff like that. But I feel like they changed a lot, and I hope they don't do it this year, just like how the USFL didn't do it. I think the XFL should follow suit and not do it that much this year. But the other problem is just the home teams and stuff. While USFL does have their own issues, playing against playoff games, the fact is a lot of their teams aren't in an area where it really affects them if NHL or NBA is going on. The XFL, every single city is. The fact is, you had 11 games at home for the XFL were played the same day as an NHL or NBA team played their home game. That included 2 at Houston, Vegas, and Seattle during the season, 1 at San Antonio, St. Louis, DC, Arlington, and Orlando, Arlington being Dallas. So that's 25.6% of games were played, home games were played the same day as an NHL or NBA team. That's really bad. When you put it like that, that's really bad scheduling. Especially when you remember that Seattle also had a ton of games on, not Saturday and Sunday that made no sense. And you changed a lot of games' times and stuff, but it's just, this is the big issue of the XFL that I hope they fix next season. The fact is that they should already know. Like, the playoffs is one thing, that definitely can, hamper your scheduling. But for the most part, all these games when you're making your schedule, you shouldn't, have to be, oh no, we have a fourth of the schedule competing with the NBA and stuff. Not a good idea. Hopefully they change that. I think that, just like we saw the USFL learn from their having a ton of 10 p.m. starts, them having games on Thursdays and Fridays and stuff, that the XFL probably will learn from that as well. Hopefully we see it. The second problem is The Rock and Dany. Look, the league is supposed to be about the players, and for almost the whole year, it felt like it was about The Rock and Dany. Every single time you watch the broadcast, they always mention them, and every time there was an announcement, it seemed it was about them. The Under Armour agreement, that's really cool. It's great the XFL had it, but when it was announced, it was basically The Rock's partnership is coming to the XFL. The Rock's tequila is coming to the XFL. Hell, when the jerseys were announced, you could only get 2. You can get your basic, year jersey, which is the same with the USFL. But unlike the USFL last year, which did have custom ones, last year being 2022, the XFL also had a second jersey. Except theirs was a player 54 Dwayne Johnson jersey. If that's not like the definition of egotistical, I don't know what is. Look, either have custom jerseys or just have the basic ones. The fact that you put the effort to make Dwayne Johnson jerseys is a huge red flag because you're making it seem like the league is only about The Rock. And it's not. It's a great thing to have someone like The Rock being the owner of the league. It provides a lot of eyes to it. But that's all it needs to be. The Rock owns the league. That's going to give enough eyes. You don't need to make all these other big deals about, oh, The Rock did this or that. The Rock owning it is a huge deal in itself. Stop trying to push it down everyone's throats. And Dany Garcia the same way. We don't care about, all this stuff about, oh, she's the first woman owner. That's great. But we don't need to hear it every game or every time she's on screen. Same way we don't need to hear everything about The Rock every 2 seconds. That's been my issue. They just need to tone it down a bit. It's about the players, not about The Rock and Dany. Now we get to the number 3, and that's I think they need to bring more gimmicks. Look, as I've said before, I think both leagues can survive, and it's because they are different enough from each other. One of them is truly like a minor professional football league, and one of them is like a gimmicky football league. I'm not saying that as a offense. They're the FCF to the USFL's IFL. I'm saying that that's just kind of how it is. They both have a couple things that are a bit different. The 4th and 12/15, the extra point stuff, or having a 3-point conversion. But whereas the USFL is doing, a couple things, the XFL, the game itself is almost like the CFL and being totally different. No extra points from kicking. The kickoffs looking insanely whack. Stuff like that. That's just, I think the XFL needs to do more of that. I know football purists might not be a fan of that, but I actually think that's a good thing. I think you need to do more stuff like that where it's gimmicky, truly gimmicky, but in a sense that it makes the game more fun to watch. I think that would be the best thing the XFL could do in terms of the on-the-field product is that. Now, the fourth problem is the overall broadcast. Yeah, the broadcast was overall pretty bad. I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of issues you can talk about. The score bug, the gambling talk all the time. But the one that I'm honestly shocked not many people talk about is Dean Blandino. Outside of The Rock and Dany, the other guy that seemingly gets way too much screen time is Blandino. Look, I agree with everybody else. The replay review system is great. But the USFL is better in a sense that you don't have to see Mike Pereira every 2 seconds. It is unironically like every 3 plays Dean Blandino is on your screen. We do not need to see him every 3 plays. He should come in when it matters. We should hear him a little bit when something happens. We need to cut down on the Blandino. We don't need to eliminate it because it's a great rule. It's a great thing to have in the game. But we don't need to see him every 2 seconds talking about some play, something like that. Especially considering most of the time, they give him actual screen time, just like this clip right here. So the game that's already condensed by the score bug is now condensed even more. We do not need that. That would be a big issue. The broadcasters, I think they can upgrade a bit from what they had last year, but this would be my biggest issue, the broadcast. And just like the USFL, I would like to see a pregame and halftime. I would. Now, the last problem I have is bringing the teams to their home cities. Despite what some people might say, the XFL actually only has one team in their home city, that's the Renegades. Every other team is at the hub. Now, they get to go play in their home stadium, but they're not actually based there. Now, just like with the USFL and how they're not going to have all 8 teams next season in their stadiums, it's pretty obvious the XFL is not going to bring a team to their home market because they have to sign a 3-year deal with Arlington, but I feel like they should. Look, the USFL's, Panthers, Stallions, and Showboats were able to have a great connection to the home crowd. Whether that be Showboats going to donut shops, whether it be Panthers players going to Detroit Pistons games, Stallions being in the Birmingham Parade for St. Patrick's Day. Things like that the XFL can't do because these players aren't actually in their home cities. I feel like they need to change that. I hope they do that. It make it a lot more personable, and I feel like it would make the overall connection to the fans and the players and the teams a lot better. But we'll see. Overall, this has been Zomfox. Let me know what you guys think. Do you agree or disagree with any of the claims I have about what the XFL needs to do? We're about to hit 300 subscribers. It'd be really nice if you subscribe and hit the bell. You'll also be notified as soon as I upload any videos. And as always, have a great night.